Juan podcast with your host, Juan Ayala. Prepare to have your mind blown.
Welcome to a swapcast with the guys from Rising from the Ashes podcast. What the fuck is up, guys? How you guys doing today?
What the fuck is up with you, Juan?
Not much, dude. I'm just here in Florida talking about how lame it is that we can't have weed here. You know?
Oh, yeah.
You can buy a fucking machine gun.
You can have it, but you just can't.
Yes, you can have it, but you can't buy it. Dude, I remember one time I was like, I don't want to say who it was, but my plug, right? One of my plugs, I was like, hey, dude, you think you can get me some sativa, right? Because I like the sativa high. I don't like the indica high. I don't like that shit.
Yeah.
He literally looks at me, he goes, bro, what the fuck you think this is, a dispensary? He's like, we got what we got. I'm like, fuck, man, I don't know. That's why I grew my own psilocybin, because you don't know what they be doing to this stuff. Can they do stuff to it, Roman? Can they
Interesting. That's a
they
great
can put
question.
chemicals and shit on there. They can do like that type of shit.
I haven't heard of like GMO mushrooms, because I have a buddy down in San Diego who runs a pretty big facility, and it's so easy to grow.
Yeah.
You know, granted, like non-contamination, as long as you have a very sterile area, that like I don't see people like dumping like massive amounts of glyphosate on their psilocybin crops, but hey, what's his name, Paul Stamets, who got really fucking famous for taking federal money to grow psilocybin and to grow almost all strains of mycelium, whatever he sees fit. He is the guy behind the mainstream mycelium narrative, and he grows for the feds. So it's he might be doing some other shit that we don't know about.
I didn't know that about him, that he was growing for the feds like that. Because I mean, I know that they're venturing into the whole psilocybin thing, and the new research, right, shows to cure cancer, PTSD, et cetera, et cetera. But the reason that I grew it was so I knew my shit was pure. I knew what strain it was, given that the guys who sold me the syringes were telling me what they said it was, versus me just buying it off of some guy who, just says that's what it is. You know what I mean?
Well, cannabis is the same way, because I'm up here in the Mendocino County, the Emerald Triangle, which is one of like the hubs of cannabis in the world, right? At least in North America. Since we obviously have like the original home of the cannabis plants, which is known to be somewhere in the Himalayas and in China, Russia, and that whole mountain range is over there. Beautiful, amazing. Anyways, we have these strain names, right? We have these, but it's like, all these fucking like old timer Grateful Dead head listening Simon and Samson and Delilah ass knee patting motherfucking Uncle Joe motherfuckers out here growing chronic since 1963. Some of the strains have been back crossed so many times and then brought back around, and then now there's all these genetic companies, and what's happening is there's so much hype going into the weed game through like rappers and like different sorts of media outlets and whatever, that now we're addicted to getting new terpenes, new strain profiles, new this. So we're actually losing a lot of the original strains and the original homes and
the
phenotypes
ancestors of the plants are suffering. I got some shit called Poontang Pie the other
I hope that's not the first time.
Poontang Pie, bro, from Colorado, from sunny Colorado, and I got another stuff that's called mac and cheese, and I was just laughing at the name.
Everybody loves mac and cheese.
I got the mac and cheese. That's the Mac 1 cheese back cross with the
alien cheese or some shit. I don't fucking know, bro. Like it's crazy, dude. It's how they mix everything up. But that's awesome that I don't want to say it, but that you are familiar with the business, right?
Yes, yeah. And we'll be expanding soon. Hopefully, I might have to move to Memphis. I'm not sure. I don't know if I want to do
Tennessee?
that, but yes.
It's legal there?
So, yeah, just got rec.
Shit.
we might up and move out of California and do that if the money's right. If they can offer something good, then I'll be like, yes, I'm building a studio, please. But who fucking knows?
Who knows?
That's awesome.
Who knows? But I was gonna say though, it's when we're talking about cannabis, I mean, like it has been in the government's hands and the Fed's hands for a long time. Like after World War II, part of MK Ultra, like projects, not necessarily MK Ultra, but out of the same labs and the same testing fields where they were using these different drugs and psychoactive materials, they were also extracting parts of cannabis as well. So it's been scientifically tested on for decades now. And so, we live in a fucking crazy world, man. Like they're growing some deep underground military base weed that's like probably, I don't know, like can grow as fast as bamboo or something.
Turn you into a fucking alien.
Turns you into Bigfoot, bro. And you can teleport to other dimensions and shit.
Oh,
that's what they don't want you to know about the ancients, dude. So let's jump into this shit, man. Let's talk about. So you guys are doing this month of like a dedicated topic, right?
Yeah.
What's this month's topic for the listeners on my show? This will be on my show for them listening. What's this month's topic that you guys are covering?
This month we're covering like God and Satan, good and evil, duality, that type of thing. The whole religious thing, God questions, Satan, Lucifer, all that fun stuff. It's been really great so far, man. We've only put one episode out so far. We got 2 more that we need to work on right now in the editing room, and then we have our 3rd one in a few days, our 4th one in a few days. Yeah. Yes. And then we're gonna follow it up with a group show at the end of the month and talk to a couple other different podcasters and just have a little group chat about it, and that's what we're going to do each month. We're going to just do a different theme. We did Tartaria month in November, and that went really well for us, and we decided let's just pick themes and just try to hit these things at all different angles, and see what we can come up with. And so next month in February we're doing divine, feminine, and goddess. And so we're going to talk about the female aspects of everything.
Sophia,
also.
Nice. I love the
Gnostics.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're going to do a return to Tartaria in March. And so far, that's what we have planned for the most part. We've got some other things planned for the rest of the year too, but they're not too set in stone yet. But those 3 months are pretty set.
Yeah, I try and do a topic for every episode. As of lately, I've been just freeballing it pretty much, just going with the flow and just I try to not repeat the same shit I talk about, because we always talk about the same. It's like Eric Von Daniken, where he talks about the ancient astronaut theory 100 different fucking times, and it's fascinating 100 different fucking times. But how many times can you talk about the same thing over and over again? We get it. The ancients, Ezekiel saw a UFO. We get it. The Nazca lines might have been landing strips for the UFOs. We get this, bro. Come up with something new. You're still living in what year did the Chariots of the Gods come on? The 60s, 70s?
Yeah, fucking a long time ago.
He's still living in that time, bro. He's talking about the same thing. Like every time I have a Eric Von Daniken lecture come up on my YouTube, I'm like, oh wait, let me guess. Ancient astronaut theory. Oh, there you go for a fucking another 2 hours, bro. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So
I was super big into Ancient Aliens, though. Like, I thought I really had it figured out once Ancient Aliens come along. Yeah. And the whole thing. I read all the Sitchin books, and once like I started putting that stuff to the Bible, I was like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. It's just aliens. That's where they come from. And then recently I've gotten out of that. About 2 or 3 years ago, I started changing my viewpoint.
Yeah, and to relate that to the whole topic that we're going to be talking about today, and the duality within, if you will. And I told you, hit my boy up. I told him to hit you up. Anderson Silver, he wrote a book specifically on this. Yeah. The duality within, and he fucking, dude, guy's awesome, and he goes in on the modern philosophy aspect of everything. So I have a a quote from the good old Bible from your boy King James, the King James version, Mark 3:25. And if a house is divided against itself, that house cannot stand. It always seems, so he talked about religion. It always seems that in every religion there is always, so for the Anunnaki, it was the two brothers, right? It was
Enlil and Enki.
Enlil and Enki, where they both are in this galactic battle. And the Mahabharata is the two factions of cousins, right? You have Vishnu and this other guy, and obviously have become the destroyer of worlds. And in all these epics that you fucking read about, it's always a duality. The reason that the Gnostics fascinate me is because they added that. So you have the Trinity, obviously, which is the Trinity was presented way later on in the history of Christianity. And what I love about the Gnostics is that they present that divine feminine. So we have Sophia, the demiurge, and then you have, I had Lawrence Corona on like 2 years ago on my podcast, and we went deep into that about how they did believe that consciousness came first, right? The thought, and then the thought thinking of itself, and then I think it was like thought thinking of itself thinking, which is the Christos, which is the child. And when you tell people about that, they fucking like flip a switch, bro. When you tell them there's a possibility that there is a divine feminine. And did you know that some of the Gnostics, there was, I think it was I want to say the Cephian Gnostics, that they worshipped the serpent from the Garden of Eden because they thought that was the true Messiah. You guys know that?
That's the gnosis, right? The information, the knowledge.
Yeah. So in the cosmology, you have the eagle and the serpent, which we see this throughout all of history as well, right? Like the Mexican flag where you have the eagle biting the serpent. And there's this whole thing, I'm sure you guys know, it's got to do with Tartaria, where they've inversed all this symbolism. The serpent is actually the good guy. So the serpent was Sophia in the Garden of Eden in Gnostic cosmology, who was trying to tell Adam and Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge. That way they would have the knowledge to understand that they were in a false reality. And that's why God, Yahweh, El, whoever you want to call it, got so pissed off and was like, fuck you guys. You're casted out of the Garden of Eden. And now you will forever know what is good and evil, right? And here we are, where I was listening before this, I was listening to a Manly P. Hall lecture on good and evil, and he talks about, and it relates to, you guys ever looked into John Baldriard's work, Simulacra and Simulation, from the Matrix movies?
No, I've yet to actually dive into any of that. No.
So John Baldriard was I believe he was a French philosopher. And by the way, he was the main inspiration for the Matrix movies, and he fucking hated them. After the first movie, he was contacted to be an executive producer, and he said no. He told him to get fucked. Then after the fact, he did an interview where he said that everything that he presented, because everybody on the cast had to read this book called Simulacra and Simulation, where it talks about the hyper reality and all this stuff, and you can relate that to the metaverse and all this bullshit that we have going on now. But in there's a they distinguish instinct versus territory, right? Because when we think of good and evil, we have the Lion King, the circle of life, right? Why is it that a lion will eat a baby gazelle? We see that as horrible, but in fact, it's not, because that's its instinct, right? And the reason that animals, it's nature, exactly. And the reason that animals lash out towards us is because they have territory. Man has only taken territory. We put the lines on the map. Animals don't give a fuck about the lines on the map. Therefore, when we have an animal lash out at us, it's not it's being evil or has malintent. It's because it has the instinct to protect its territory. They have territory. And so, yeah, so they distinguish that. It relates to that in a sense, because you want to say something?
Go ahead and finish your thought, though. I don't want to interrupt you midway.
So simulacra is when we give something a value, so an intrinsic value, without. So the way he puts it in the book is, if you have a picture of Jesus Christ or a statue of Jesus Christ, to a lot of people, that actual statue, that actual empty symbol is Jesus Christ, when in reality it's not. It's only the symbol of something sacred. But all throughout society and all throughout civilization, we have given power to symbols and they have power over us. So that's the whole argument of simulacra and simulation, where you give power to these empty symbols. Money. Bro, if you really think about it, I think about this shit all the time. A piece of paper rules absolutely everything. Me and you, well, if you provide a service to me, I'm giving you pieces of paper that, because the government says it's worth money, it's worth something, you accept it as payment for your service to me. What if we all,
it's our energy exchange.
What if we all said fuck the system and just went back to bartering, how the ancients did, right? Back then it was about, what was it, in the 70s when the gold standard was
free energy.
Oh yeah, we can talk about.
I think a lot of that. I think the shift happened when the cross was hijacked, when the whole new Holy Roman Empire, the Western Holy Roman Empire, came in and brought the true, like, Jesuit takeover, the New World Order, starting back to just take away the cross. Because the cross before that, in my opinion, what I hope is real is that it was the time of free energy, and all these cathedrals and all this symbolism with the cross originally is all about being able to extract energy from the ether with any sort of conductive material, using that symbol, which is a symbol of energy and how to control and wield energy. And then you take the figment or the energy of Jesus, right, which could be higher consciousness or connection to something bigger, as a symbol, and you put a dead body on the cross, and you take away the meaning of the cross, that it was energy and understanding energy. And then that at the same time, then you're going to change your mindset from everything that was a free barter system, free energy, free flow society, to a money written future, which is going to be putting, like you said, putting your energy, putting your soul and your spirit, your time, your goodness, the only thing you have, which is your breath and your time and your body and your now, to the figment of nothingness, as a way to separate it for real. Because when Jesus on the cross it actually is stopping us from getting into the cross. It's like, we can't get that free energy anymore. And that's the world that got taken away from us from that shit, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'd say the cross too is a symbol of man. It's a symbol of humanity and the energy that as we are the conductors of energy also.
Absolutely.
I wasn't going to go there, but you guys are going to make me go there. I did not plan on talking about this, but let's go ahead and go into it because it relates to what we're talking about. And it has to do with Pythagoras, one of my favorite people in history. And the Tesseract, 4, the Tetragrammaton. So the 4 or the Tesseract in Pythagorean thought was a symbol of intellect, and they referred to it as the holy number. And this has to do with the symbolism of numbers, which I've
share screen that shit, yo.
Which is super interesting because my name, my birthday, and whatever other personality thing that they do with numerology, I'm 4, 4, and 4.
I have 5 screens. Can you see that?
Yes.
Can you see these notes here?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So this is an episode I'm writing, okay, about the symbolism of numbers with the Pythagoreans. And so the 4 or the Tesseract in Pythagorean thought was a symbol of intellect, and they referred to it as the holy number. And this has to do with 10. They saw 10 as God, and et cetera, et cetera. But this goes fucking deep, right? So the 1 plus the 2 plus the 3 plus the 4 equals the 10 being the most sacred of all numbers. So we get into the symbolism of the 4 being the only way in which you can achieve the number 10.
Yes.
4 carries with it the symbolism of forces or powers in the universe by the material was brought into existence. So what you guys are talking about. The 4 elements of matter, earth, water, air, and fire. 4 is also known as the demiurge's number, or the number of the mental or intellectual region of the universe. According to Kabbalah, the name of the deity responsible for creation creates 4 letters or characters. These letters or characters are called in Hebrew the Tetragrammaton, also known as the name for the national God of Israel, Yahweh, The form Yahweh is now accepted universally because there is no consensus about the structure or etymology of the name. This name appears in the Torah and the rest of the Hebrew Bible. The number 4, which can only represent the elements, which not only represents the elements, also represents direction, north, east, west, and south, and the 4 sciences, the quadrivium: mathematics and logic, biological science, social science, and physical science. When you open up, here you go. When you open up a tesseract, it forms a cross. Therefore, it can be interpreted in the form of a cross, the 4 arms of a cross. So if you take the cube symbolism and you unfold it, right? And we have Nick Hinton with the Saturn time cube simulation hypothesis. You get the cross, right? The cross is a symbol of matter or materiality. It is a symbol of body. It represents the material world, and hence why it is where Christ was crucified. Christ being a title given to Jesus. The Gnostics believe that Christ was what possessed Jesus in the river of Jordan when John the Baptist baptized him in that river. And the Pythagoreans believed a man has 4 powers in which he can use to orient himself in this material realm. Now, that's why they call it the demiurge's number, because 4 formation, right? It's the power, the number of creation. So
it is the demiurge.
Yes. And we also have, I believe, Abraxas. We can relate this to Abraxas as well, which obviously,
before you go into that a little bit, I contend that Enki is actually Yahweh, because in ancient Egypt, hold on. In ancient Egypt, he was known. Yeah, I don't know what that was. In ancient Egypt, he was known as Ptah. He's the one that brought Egypt out from the mud, basically, and terraformed it and reconstructed it. And Ptah, you could see Ptah as Peter or Jehovah, Ptah, Jupiter. He is Kronos. The demiurge. Yeah, he's not Cronus necessarily. Cronus is before. Time started before the demiurge did, because Sophia gave birth to the demiurge. Sophia was once with Satan, and then became with Lucifer or Baal, or however that goes.
Let me get up in here real quick.
Because well, yeah. Let me finish this off by saying, too, like the Tesseract, most people say it's like the Saturn cube, right? And it's all evil. But when you look at it like this, it's, you can see that it contains all knowledge of everything, just like Pandora's box. It's the same symbolism.
Yes, I agree. So to me, I take away from that, because this goes in right into this beautifully. It was a beautiful transition right into this shit that I've been looking into. And there's a reason why 4 is before 5, right? Because, like you said, you have the 4 elements, 4 directions, for a lot of things, for a lot of fucking things, right? Square and the cube, absolutely. But then the reason you go to 5 is when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and you add the 5 in the middle is the middle point, right? There's not an extra limb. It's not a cross of 5 like that. It's a middle, because then you can extend it, and then all those come together. The perfect square goes up to make a pyramid, right? Then you have the flip side of that. It's going to come out both sides, and that's the ether. That's the 5th element, right? And then the 5th direction is within, or, without that exterior, because 4 is a physical number, and it represents the physical sign and the physical meaning of the cross, which is man, right? But then the metaphysical, or the conscious, the extra ophiuchus, right? That next level of consciousness awakeness, which is what in my opinion, a lot of life is ascension. Like all of our ancient ancestors always focusing on ascension, and the highest level of ascension to master the physical body, and then to get into the consciousness and have full ascension. And that's a representation of what 5 is. And I think the cross does that too, because if you look at these resonant architecture buildings, they take churches out of it, right? Churches aren't Christian, right? They're not for worshiping Jesus, any of this shit. They are for extracting ether energy, And they're constructed in such a way down to the finite blueprints and the detail. Exactly. Everything. And all these fucking buildings have it. And there's this project that went down, this test where they brought up an EC reader on a copper wire on a drone. And so the further it went up, the more electric conductivity, electromagnetism, electricity was in the ether, the farther it went up.
That's what Nikola Tesla was about, right? About extracting energy from the ether or the stratosphere or the world. But again, funded by one of the biggest reptilians there are, JP Morgan. When he saw that they couldn't industrialize, he's like, wait a minute, you want to give people free what? Get fucked. The Wardenclyffe Tower is shut down. We gotta, he lost everything, right? And it ties into that. And that's what
HAARP is too.
Yeah, and dude, did you know? I recently just learned that. Okay, so I thought HAARP was only in Alaska. That shit's all over the fucking world.
There's bunches of them.
I was like, I was Googling Maps. I was like, wait a minute, there's more than on an episode. I was like Googling at the same time, like, holy shit, there's more than one of them. It's not just the one in Alaska.
And all those little antennae things that they have on the ground all look like little crosses.
Yeah. So
it's an energetic shape.
Yeah.
I think this has to do with, I'm doing an episode on the 12 vile vertices around the world, and it's got to do with Ivan Sanderson, which he was one of the main guys that actually contributed to the cryptozoology movement, right? And his whole thing was, have you guys heard of the 12 vile vortices?
No.
So
I don't think so.
You have the equator, and there's the most famous one being the Bermuda Triangle. You have the Bermuda Triangle, you have Easter Island, you have
the
ley
lines.
Yeah, exactly. Mohenjo-Daro. You have all these places where weird shit goes down, and it's got to do with that. The South Atlantic anomaly is just what you said. The fucking Hubble telescope can't take pictures when it's over because there's so much radiation, because the Van Allen belt, it comes to the lowest point on the Earth to that spot. And it's fried all these gyroscopes from different satellites for different countries and all this stuff. And these areas are areas of high supernatural and a different phenomenon where I believe it's got to do something with electromagnetism, as well as the veil is thinner. Now, when we have all these ley lines, right? We have all these ley lines. I believe that the ancients knew about this shit. This is why all of these ancient civilizations, the Mayans, 100%. The Egyptians, all these guys, they what always happens to them? They always piece the fuck out. Oh, what happened to them? Oh, we don't know. They got taken over by the Hyksos. Well,
the serpent is the energy.
I think that at a certain point in time, they were able to, sort of what Roman was talking about, they were able to achieve some sort of harmonic frequency where they were able to leave as a whole people. It wasn't that they were wiped out. They were able to just piece the fuck out of this dimension. To where? We don't know, because there's a reason why the Egyptians were so obsessed with death. There was a reason why they were so, and that's what has to do with transhumanism now, where they want to live forever. Oof. They believed in preparing everything for the afterlife, so maybe that they could come back and...
Antiquated transhumanism, my brother.
I believe that was because the poles were clogged and their soul could no longer be recycled into the torrido field of the planet. And so they mummified themselves so that way later on, when the poles were open, that they could their souls could... They
were leftovers then.
Huh? Yeah. There's so many of these cultures. There's Egyptians, and in all of the mound building cultures that were in North America up through Central and South, they apparently, like, there's not a lot of research done on this because they didn't have a lot of, obviously, like, artifacts or what have you to really get what they were vibing on at the time. But what the little bit we do know about the mound building cultures is they would every winter solstice go to the top of their mounds and then look at the sky, and a split in the sky called an ogi would open, and all of their souls would leave Milky their body.
Way.
What?
Yeah, and do a soul journey around the sun for one cycle, and then go back and then enter their body again. And it's like that's what these ancient cultures, they were so spiritually connected that they believed that their soul would leave their body for an entire 24-hour period, go around
like a remote viewing type
cycle.
of shit.
Something, man, like something tapping into it, like next level.
I did an episode like probably 2 years now ago where I talked about the connection from the one, right? The connection from the source. And if we look at like Welsh mythology, where it's so epic language, right? It's like Harry Potter. You got these dragons, you got these sorcerers, you got all this crazy ass shit. I think that back then, language, the original alphabet only had 17 to 19 letters, one of those two. And we've added these symbols, again, these empty symbols to our alphabet in order to demystify ourselves and further that connection from the one, because according to the Gnostics, we have that divine spark. We are made in the image of God. Therefore, we are gods. We are our own gods. And that's why I believe in the law of attraction. But I feel that they've taken this and not only taken religion and turned it into a business, because it's a brokered experience now, if you notice. You have to go through us to achieve divinity. The Gnostics were like, hey, you can do that shit on your own. You don't have to go to a congregation. You can do whatever you want as long as you learn the gnosis, which is whatever that means to you, your sacred knowledge, and you're able to ascend into the upper eons and break through the lower eons. And they thought that every orbit of every celestial body was a different demon. And you are able to ascend to that upper eon, which is that metaphysical world with the watery light, where when you look into the watery light, the angels see you and you see the angels, because again, we are all one. There is no differences. We are all one. That's why, Pythagoras said, if man is able to destroy even one grain of sand, he will eventually destroy himself. And it brings me back to the Mahabharata when Oppenheimer, that interview that they did with him, where he goes, I have now become the destroyer of worlds, and you see it in his eyes, because he knew what the fuck he did when he saw the destruction of the atomic bomb. And I think that's what Pythagoras meant. If we're able to break one grain of sand, the atom, we will eventually destroy ourselves. And we're way fucking past that now, especially. You know what I mean? And that interview, you should just see the lifelessness in his body. Oppenheimer being one of the Nazis, Project Paperclip. And that shit is fucking wild. But to me, it always goes back to the source. What the Pythagoreans talked about, the monad, right? The one. For the Stoics, the one is the logos, and the Stoics believe that the logos, or the universe, it was a thing that you couldn't control, a non-personal relationship with it. But to the Christians, the logos is a very intimate relationship. To them, that is God, right? I have here the monad, any fundamental singular metaphysical entity. The one, our own identity, is our own monad. The identity in things representing themselves. And then we can get into what we're trying to talk about today, the duad, or the two, which was regarded as an ill number. And I'm going to jump around here for a second, because the number 2 to the Pythagoreans was a bad number. It was like, no, because there is no such thing as good and evil. There is only the one, which is best. It is perfect. It cannot be elevated to a higher sense or a higher being. In Pythagorean thought, elevation is motion towards unity. That things divided cannot be supreme because of the imbalance. The duad, being a symbol of separation, drives man from the truth, leading us to the concept of intervals or distance. The duad is inevitable and cannot be avoided. Intervals become the great abyss that man must overcome to achieve restoration in a universal space. And then I have this quote by Manly P. Hall, Daddy Hall, if you will. To be divided from God is to exist in a space of separation from reality. And that's from his lecture, The Symbolism of Numbers, Pythagorean Theory of Number. And, dude, I don't know, what the fuck do you guys think?
The duality is that left-right paradigm, right? It's either you're this side or you're that side, and there's no oneness. I talk about this this month too on the show, and that is like the original, like the Hinduism. Vishnu encompassed like everything. He was good and evil.
Yes.
He
had different
male
avatars.
and female. yeah, he was everything. He encompassed everything. He wasn't divided. He was one. And then you have this further division with like Buddhism talking about just the self. And then you have Jesus, which, you know, in that, in the biblical stuff, it kind of splits it, and then it creates this second paradigm of evil, whereas really it's supposed to be condensed into one. Like even Jesus says he comes with a sword that he's gonna destroy everything that's not holy or whatever. I can't remember the exact quote on that, but
I am a jealous and righteous God. That was Yahweh on the Old Testament.
That's Yahweh. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's Marduk. But yeah, so there's this whole thing with duality, and it's kind of really just fucked everything up. And we need to get back to the one and just realizing that we're all part of the same consciousness. And once we can all do that, that's when we can start to actually elevate ourselves and everybody else in this world and elevate the earth.
I'm trying to find this quote that I saw. It was a Bible verse where I think I'm not going to try and paraphrase it because I'm gonna fuck it up, but where it talks about God being both Satan and God, right? Because there's this duality even within us. And I have some more stuff here from Manly P. Hall where it says, so the duad or two was regarded as an ill number. Two represents things in which difference can be noted. And you have qualitative and quantitative differences in something, right? If something's better than something else, it's the number of illusion because difference is illusionary. It is the number of ignorance because the illusion of separateness is the root of ignorance. Ignorance is only transformed into wisdom only once unity is brought out of division. Chaos is related to the duad and cosmos is related to the monad. So like I mentioned earlier, the universe is regarded as an orderly, harmonious whole. Essential difference needs to be accepted by the mind to the appearance of difference. So we have this hierarchy in society, right? Where, like I said earlier, qualitative or quantitative differences in something where because I have more pieces of paper than you, that makes me better. We have this hierarchy, and this hierarchy within society, I think is, something that was put there on purpose in order to divide and conquer, if you will. And I always get this question because I always talk about the archons or the reptilian overlords or whatever you want to call them. And I always get the question of, are they actually reptilians? Now, do I believe there is some sort of supernatural race of reptile people? Perhaps. We have different, we have some evidence pointing to that. We have Darren Kuyu and all these underground cities everywhere around the world, which I don't believe were built as quickly as they say they were built, such as, the Chicago fairs or any of the world fairs around the world. And maybe perhaps they are reptilian. Now, when I talk about them, I talk about them in more of a metaphorical sense of the word, because we have the archons as these natural forces, if you will, in our reality that hold us back from doing what we want to achieve. And I think that this relates to the law of attraction, because just because I say something doesn't mean it's going to happen. You need to put forth into that your energy and time, and you need to align things in order to be able to reach that certain frequency in order to be able to manifest things, right? So when people ask me like, oh, well, are they actually reptilians? I think that there is maybe some reptilian race out there. That has to do with again the evidence that we see all throughout history, which I'm sure you're aware of, with the Dogon people, the fish-headed god Dagon. We have it relates to the Anunnaki as well, where it was this
Apkallu.
There's we'll take your pick, right? It's all over the world. You have Quetzalcoatl, you have Kukulkan, you have all these fucking figures, the feathered serpent, if you will, where I think, I mean, it sounds
that's kind of where I go back to earlier when I said that the serpent is energy. It's a representation of the energy, the dragon lines too, if you will, the ley lines, that this energy they were able to tap into, and so they were referred to as these dragons or these reptiles, because that was like the closest approximation to that. And even like with the Anunnaki, you have depictions of them as eagle or bird headed too,
Yes,
or serpent headed or human headed with these blue eyes. And we've been getting into a lot of this stuff with Bach Saga and everything like that. But the serpent is like it's a motif. It's not a real thing. It's not, there's like serpent people that are disguising themselves and changing themselves into humans and all that shit. I don't think that's true. Like even the serpent in the Garden of Eden, with that Gnostic point of view, it's him that's giving humans the knowledge of good and evil, right? It's him that's the Sophia, if you will, and they're given that fruit of life to them, and they're realizing that they are just like the gods, and the gods don't like that they're powerful. And then you even have like, God just had them in the garden as just gnomes, basically. They were just there. They didn't have any life to them.
Gnomes.
They were just they're gnomes. Garden gnomes.
That's in the book of Enoch, when Ella's like, you know what, fuck this experiment. And then the angels started fucking everybody. And then you get the Nephilims and the giants and the Elohim and all this shit. And I like that. I like that.
Then they got out of control, and then they had to throw a moon in the mix to throw off the fucking axis. So then the complete atmosphere of the planet changed, and they're like, fuck this, we're getting out of here.
So,
okay, wait.
I think there was two suns. I think there was two suns, and we used to live in a binary system. That first sun exploded, and it shifted the whole universe and the earth, and that was the first Ragnarok, or the first cataclysm. And then after that,
what's the name of the
now
serpent?
that's why we live in a
Dormant god or whatever,
a mono
Ouroboros.
Yeah, that's why we live in a monotheistic society now, is because now we only live with one sun, when we used to have two suns, and we used to have a binary system. So that, I think that changed the way everything worked and operated. And even the 13th zodiac, that had to take that out of the zodiac, because now the earth was no longer in alignment. It was tilted. And so now the 13th zodiac, there was no need for that. And I think the Jesus mysteries and all of these things are depicting the death of this 13th sign, this 13th zodiac, this external knowledge that we used to have, that is no longer here anymore, because now we have seasons and all these other things. And I mean, there's even 4 seasons, right? Mm-hmm. Back to the number 4. And so I mean, that's kind of how I see how everything happened. Even today people will say like there's another star way out there that's possibly our part of our binary system, but it's all speculation and everything, and that comes from like Nibiru and the Anunnaki, and perhaps that thing exploded before their time, and they were just regurgitating like what had happened, and now we're trying to incorporate it into our system. But yeah, I don't really believe that Nibiru is around anymore, but I mean,
I think it has to do again with the Dogon people, where the white dwarf doesn't give out any light, and what was it? There was like a brown dwarf and a white dwarf or something like that, and they knew the Sirius star system was there before any modern day telescope, before the 1950s, where how could they possibly see that? The Nomos came down on this aircraft or whatever, came out of the water and told us, and what it's like the Elohim and the Nephilim that taught man in the book of Genesis, and we were talking about earlier, they have become like one of us. Who the fuck is us? What do you mean us as in plural? As in there's more than one of you guys? I thought there was only one God, but you said have become one of us, and then that's when he got pissed off and was like, you know what, get the fuck out of here. Get over here, and just got taken out of the Garden of Eden. But it's got to do in Norse mythology. I think this is how you say it, Jormungandr, with the serpent.
Yeah, Jormungandr.
Yeah, the Midgard serpent, or the world serpent. Again, going back to that serpent, and you mentioned Ragnarok earlier. This fucking epic battle, which. Take your pick of any ancient civilization. Which story do you want to follow? Because they all have the same narrative fallacy in order to be able to tell this tale of to brothers, to cousins, to sisters. Maybe I'm sure there's some cult out there that worshipped some god, some female god. All this shit that we see, and yeah, dude, it's fucking fascinating.
I think the killing of the serpent can also be a reflection of
the Druids too.
This energy that existed on the planet, and the destruction of this natural energy that people were tapping into. The Christians, Catholics, the Abrahamic religions kind of came west and destroyed all of these pagan creations, if you will, and that's when all the magic left. And now this is what we're left with. And so it could have been the killing of this frequency, the killing of this energy. And I think that might be a representation, because it's odd that it's in so many different civilizations, right? This idea. So which one of them was a serpent? I don't think any of them was a serpent. It was the energy system that was the serpent.
Yeah, and it's got. I want to get you guys' take on speaking about the duality within. I believe it was Carl Jung that said, and I'm paraphrasing it, once you are able to bring the subconscious to the conscious, you will continue to call it fate and let it rule over you. And he also talked about how, and I think this is what the ancients also knew about, and it's been demonized, if you will, with this dogma around it of, again, with the Gnostics, and we all know history is his story. So whoever won is the one that's telling all the fucking tales. So of course they're gonna pump their side up and be like, yeah, we were the ones that took these people out because they were bad. The Gnostics were having orgies and doing mushrooms and doing all these psychedelics. Yep. They were fucking each other and all this stuff, right? From church fathers that hated them because they were against they were heretics. They were against their whole movement. And so Carl Jung talks about, once you're able to identify and tap into your dark self, it is able to show you all the secrets of the universe. Now, don't tell me where I read that or heard that, but I'm sure he said that somewhere. I'd have to find my source. But it just brings me back to this idea of some sort of Akashic records, and back to the idea of how people were able to tap into some world knowledge where they were able to decipher the secrets of the universe, whatever that secret may be. And I'm not going to bring something up that I had somebody tell me. I came up with the question of, I said, and it's one of the only things I've ever edited out of a podcast, but I said, if we don't have the choice of being brought into this simulation, right, or false reality or holographic universe or whatever it may be. And I saw this article on, I think it was science.com or some shit, where it said the universe may actually be pixelated, right? All this shit, all these ideas that are coming out. You have quantum physics and the quantum science
Project Gateway,
where it's all magic. If you really look at it, quantum entanglement, quantum tunneling, quantum, the two-slit experiment, all that shit is magic. We don't know why it's happening, but it's happening, right? And
1, 2, 3, 4.
I brought up the question, and it was just in conversation, and I said, if we don't have the choice to be here, why can't we take the choice to exit the simulation? And he said some fucked up shit after the fact, but I think that's what the ancients knew, that this is like some sort of right. You have the Tibetan Book of the Dead, where it talks about how when you pass, you're moving through this area where either you see the archons or you see your ancestors or you see whoever the fuck. And I think maybe the ancients knew about this. There's I believe it's the Gospel of Judas, where everything in that gospel is flipped upside down, and it's got to do with the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi library. And in that gospel, Judas is actually the good guy, right? Judas is the guy that Jesus would confide in, and the 12 disciples hated Jesus Christ. And in this story, Jesus comes out. They were looking for him, and he comes out of a room or some shit, or he comes back and knocks on the door, and he goes, they go, hey, Jesus, where were you at? And he says, oh, I pieced the fuck out of this reality, and because I just didn't want to be here anymore, and now I'm back here. What's up? And they were like, wait, what do you mean you don't like being here anymore? And he pretty much says, I fucking hate it here, right? The Gospel of Judas. But even Jesus Christ in this story was transcending to other dimensions and other points in time because he wanted to escape whatever reality he was living in at the time, right? So I don't know, but it's just something that I thought about, as far as being able to ascend or transcend or whatever the fuck it may be.
Yeah, I'd say there's definitely been an inversion. We can see that inversion in everything that used to be a pagan belief system is now considered evil. Magic, yoga, plant medicine, all these different types of ideas are now evil. You can't do them anymore. That's where you get this flip, this inversion, right? Even the word sacred, I posted this the other day. Sacred is your sac red, right? That's your lower vibrational self. That's your sac chakra is the lower vibration.
Like your balls? Like the sac?
Yeah.
Your root chakra is literally right in between. It's like where your gooch would be. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so to say something is sacred, it means it could also mean like the demon seed. It came from the seed of these reptilians, so to speak,
or I don't know,
or these serpent people, which to me they just had a knowledge of this energy that encompassed the world, and that's what the true meaning really is, and that's why we get the inversion. But they kept the word, and it means something. It still means something good, even though it's low energy.
Yeah, and there's a flip side to it that's good, because I see sacred connected to the root. The root's just as important as the top, though, right? So rooted in something with roots and is really important, and you need to establish roots. Coming from someone who grows things that have visible fuzzy little roots. On that note, though, I did just to jump back on the colors, because when you were talking the numbers, we're talking about the importance of numbers earlier, Juan. Like there was a lot of stuff going on. I was like, oh, that's cool as fuck, really
pretty riled up, bro.
There's a lot. Well, numbers are really cool because I started thinking about it even more.
They're
like
everything, bro. The universe is numbers. That's what Pythagoras said. The music of spheres. He understood that every single orbit emits its own vibrational frequency in the year 400. And we know that shit now. Every planet and every celestial body emits a certain frequency, right? We know this shit now. And he was talking about this in the year 400, bro.
No, that's when they knew it. That's when it was like more fucking readily available, and people would fucking be like actually vibe with it because they weren't fucking dumbed down with bullshit. But I was like, there's 7 notes in the musical note world, right? A, B, C, D, F, and G.
How many syllables are there?
A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And then, how many syllables?
Yeah.
In that right there?
No, I'm sorry.
In general.
The vowels, how many vowels are there?
A, B, A, E.
There's 5. But anyways, so the whole symbolism of numbers, bro, like I said, it goes fucking deep. And that's like a 2-hour episode on its own. And you mentioned 5. 5 is the number of man, because you have the Virtuian man, I think that's how you say it, where you have the star, right? So, dude, when I talk about numbers, to the Pythagoreans, it goes fucking balls deep, sack deep, if you will. And so, numbers are everything. They understood that everything.
5, yeah.
Yeah, the 5, the monad. And they understood that everything was numbers. Everything could be broken down into numbers. And we discovered numbers, and we didn't create them. They were already there to begin with. Mathematics is everything, honestly. I mean, it's everything. And they understood this shit. They understood it. Back in the year 400, they were talking about it. So that's what blows my mind, that we're still using stuff that Plato talked about, that all these, and if they're actual figures and if they actually existed, who the fuck knows? Because we're never going to know, right? Like Plato, a lot of the stuff that we know about him, or Aristotle, is from people who wrote about them. Pythagoras, we don't have any of his writings. We have writings of other people that talked about him, right? and he had a cult, and that shit is
the
crazy.
Emerald tablets too.
Bro, it's so fascinating, and this is what I love about history, because we always go back and reference. Like, we haven't come up with anything on our own. Like, if we really look at it, it's all just regurgitated bullshit that we just put a twist on it and just call it our own. But there's no...
You mean society or individually? Because societally, yes. Individually, I mean, like, once you start digging into this, like, that's what's beautiful about the collective consciousness concept, or the Akashic, you know, and like restoring Earth's consciousness or connecting to that. It's like we're able to tap into it, and it though it happened a long time ago and it's only getting farther away, and we keep trying to go back and figure out the thing that's never going to come technically in a linear fashion come closer to us. So we're always just like traveling like mega distances, and only gets further as we're writing, you know, our own sort of like kind of...
But Roman, you're fucking up already, bro. What did we just talk about? A separation is an illusion, and you're talking about getting further and further and intervals, and
that's what I mean on a linear sense, yes. But that's what I'm saying. That's why I love the Akashic concept, because it's therefore not far away. Like, and it's there, and we're able to tap into it. But we have to do the work and to mend it, and to keep it safe, and to keep it good, and to keep it alive. And that's the thing that society tries to wean out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And again, back to the... Can you guys hear me? Whoa.
Recording in progress.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
What the fuck just happened?
I don't know, dude.
It just like kicked me out. Good thing I'm recording on this end. We don't get the video. Fuck it, because this has been an awesome episode. But what was I saying? I said that fuck. It just like, dude, it just like completely closed the program on, then open right back up.
That was weird, man.
Oh shit.
That was... What were you saying, Roman? You were talking about...
I just love the concept of the Akashic and the collective consciousness. So cool.
I wanted to talk about how you know, with the whole duality thing, how in society everything is divided, right? We have this two-party system, or the illusion of a democracy, if you will, and you have the two-party system, and even when it's not that, it's something else. It's, well, my car make is better than yours, or my football team is better than yours, or my favorite color is better than yours. There's always going to be this divide, and I think that it's got to do with what the gist of this whole podcast: energy, attention. Data has become a hot commodity nowadays, literally. How many times have they not fined Facebook for selling our information to God knows who, because they don't even know who the fuck they're selling it to? Now, we can get into the whole thing of AI and all this shit, where we are letting the algorithm rule our reality, right? The AI has become the new demiurge, and I think that...
Yeah. I want to speak on that real quick. The AI...
I saw Roman shake his head. He said no.
The AI...
I hate it.
The AI, he hates transhumanism and stuff. But to me, the AI has always existed. I mean, that's theoretically what God really is anyways, right?
Oof.
And talking about the double slit experiment and you know, things changing by observation or by being looked at or viewed, that changes the whole concept of reality. If we all think that some God is watching us, it changes our behavior. Hence, like the church and everything, and selling heaven to people.
COVID, bro. It's always there. You don't know when it's there, but it's there, and it's gonna fucking get you if you do this.
Yeah.
If you go outside,
That's another one.
I made an episode back in 2019 or something. COVID-19, the new religion, because we worship these people in power, and we give all these people power for no apparent fucking reason. What makes the president the president? And now, I'm not saying to go out and do you know, some horrible acts of terrorism, whatever it is that you want to, but I'm saying, what makes the president the president? What, 1/4 of the population agreed on it collectively, so it came true. But who the fuck is he? Some guy that they put in power just because they said so. Again, we're giving power and
he's
energy.
CGI, bro.
China. He's AI.
I think, dude, check this out. I think that there are some people in this reality, in this realm, in this matrix, whatever you want to call it, that are here to be NPCs and to take up space in the void. You know what I mean? It's like how we talked about, so the double slit experiment, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how the observer has an effect on reality itself. When you're looking at something, it acts differently versus when you're not looking at it. That fucking tells you everything right there. So what we're not seeing in some forest, some place where a president put a law in saying, hey, you can't destroy any of this land, we don't know what happens there when we're not there. You know, is it like Grand Theft Auto when you're running in the cities just loading on its own and you see it loading on the horizon? We don't fucking know because, we're not omnipotent. And speaking of omnipotent, Pythagoras was actually revered as a demigod, and they said that he was omnipotent. So these guys that were doing this shit back then, they knew how to do. That's what I'm saying. All these, dude, in order to be initiated into the cult of Pythagoras, you had to shut your fucking mouth for 5 years, and you could only go to his lectures, and he was behind a veil. Only the people who passed the initiation were able to hear the secrets that he had to say. After 5 years of shutting your fucking mouth, you could finally be in the presence of this person, if it was actually Pythagoras.
You said COVID is the new religion. I somewhat agree with that. It's the security state that's going to be the new AI. It's the new religion, and COVID is the means to get to that end.
Or scientism, and kind of wrapped into one,
Hail
like
Fauci.
New World Order. Yeah.
But you talk about this
Elon
shit.
Musk is there too. That son of a bitch.
Oh my God, Elon Musk. I want I want to love him, and
rockets.
I don't know what. That's Jeff Bezos. I don't know what it is about that guy. I think he's some Martian that fucking crash landed here and wants to piece the fuck out of this planet. But this whole aspect,
he's AI,
dude. Why does he want us to connect ourselves to the computer? He wants us to succumb to the computers and become one with them. What the fuck, bro? Like, you know what I mean? I thought he was working for the people, for us. But he's just another reptilian, dog.
He's an AI. He's an AI human.
Bro, I got to skate. I'm gonna go do my Daily Double Monday night.
Yeah, bro. So check this out. We'll end this here. Holy fuck. This episode was crazy.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
I had a fantastic time with the both of you. We're going to have to do this again, unfortunately, because we have
not
left.
Unfortunately.
Well, unfortunately for you
Very
guys.
fortunately. Come to the group show at the end of the month when we're going to do with the deep dive with all the homies fucking doing the dun-dun-na.
We'll plan something. We'll plan something and we'll do this again, dude. I'm going to plug my shit. You guys can plug your shit so the listeners can look for us. I'll go first. You can follow me on social media at the Juan Podcast. I talk about all this craziness in the world. I have different guests on. I sometimes do solo episodes. I sometimes have guests on, and I have people like Dan and Roman on who are fucking super interesting, and we can vibe off each other and have these crazy, just wormhole conversations. Follow me on TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, whatever, and you guys can plug your shit.
Check us out on Patreon, where we're offering fresh episodes that you can't get anywhere else. Roman started a new solo show called Expanding Universe. I have my own show called Devil's Advocate.
You son of a bitch. It's
Expanding
Understandings.
My bad. Expanded Understandings.
Oh, fuck. Dude, there goes
Recording
again.
in progress.
That's on the Patreon. And then on the regular feed on Rising from the Ashes, we do 4 shows a month and a group show with a theme each month. And we dig deep into the different topics from different sides. This month on Good and Evil, God and Satan, we had Bruce de Torres. We had Esoteric Eddie. We had David Matheson, and we're gonna have Miguel Connor from Aeon Bite.
Oof.
So we're gonna hit this topic at all angles.
Miguel Connor, who else do you need?
Or nobody really. I mean, actually, our episode with David Matheson is super fucking fantastic. He gets super deep into the ego and what consciousness is through astrotheology, and it's fucking brilliant, man. And
astrotheology, yeah. Oof.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So yeah, check us out there, and come find us, come listen to us. And then also, Juan, you gotta go check out the Box Saga episodes on the show. Those will totally change your paradigm and how you see things.
Box Saga?
Yeah, man.
I'll check that out. I'm writing it down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. That was awesome. Shoot me your links and shoot me your logo too, because I cut out a few times and it didn't catch the ending there a little bit.
Okay.
So
and also I have one more plug, and that's Roots of Creation. Go check out Roots of Creation. It's me, Andy Rouse from the Deep Share podcast, and Yake Hagstrom, and all we do is talk Box Saga on that show. So.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, I had a fucking fantastic time. We talked about a lot of interesting shit.
I'm gonna smoke a cigarette now.
We gotta do this again, and I'll be in touch, Dan. And man, that was it. So thank you guys again for coming on.
Thank you.
Hail Fauci. Later.
And wake up.
Thank you, brother.
Later.